There's a place called a gin mill way down in the slums. There's a place called a gin mill way down in the slums. My baby goes that night and stays till the morning comes.
Well, howdy, folks. How y'all doing tonight?
Excellent. How you doing, Cowboy?
Oh, fantastic. We are here at Alley's tonight.
Alley's Alehouse.
Our home away from home, if you will.
Such a great place, isn't it?
They are. I've got a killer draft selection and killer can selection, actually.
They do.
I'm pretty excited because I looked at the menu tonight, and the dark side has grown
Yes.
this week, and the light side has shrunk this week.
Well,
so
it is that time of year.
it is.
Yeah?
Tis the season.
I always get happier when I see that cooler getting more and more full of Taxman. I know we talk about them a lot, or at least I do. Whatever, I don't care.
Oh, we all do.
And that whole bottom shelf is almost getting Taxmaned out, and I'm like, yes.
What are you drinking right now, Cowboy?
This is the bean counter. Oh, by the way, howdy, Riley.
I was like, who's that?
Got a visit from the pig pen.
This is the bean counter. It's a Belgian brown, but it's brewed with brewed coffee, and it's absolutely fantastic. 7.8, I believe. Yes, IBU is 33, and it's fantastic. They brew it with a coffee company out at Indy here. I got to remember, Mile Square Coffee. It's a fantastic beer.
It's not bee roasters because those guys do a lot with the
They
breweries.
do. They do with the breweries.
So, Brendan, we have an extraordinarily special guest on the show tonight.
We do. We actually, I think, probably 95% of the brewers we have on here, and always his name comes up.
Exactly. Yes.
Every time, it seems like.
Yeah. Either they learn from him or they just everyone's always raving about the guy. So, he's kind of like the beer maestro in Indiana. I mean, nobody can talk enough about the guy. So we were absolutely pleased to get him on the show. So we'd like to introduce Mr. Ron Smith.
Howdy, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, he's probably a lot more pleased with the way you described him instead of me saying The Godfather. He's like, oh, that sound old.
Well, luckily that came before the show, because I probably would have said that.
Yeah, I think all of that introduction made me sound old. But
Yeah, he kept shaking his head a lot.
I've just been around this stuff a long time, I guess.
It's true, though. It's funny. We talked to a lot of brewers, and we, where'd you guys start? Your name just pops up. Ron Smith. I mean,
Been at it a long time.
Yeah.
Close to 25 years. So
Now tell us about that. Where did your start come from in beer? And
well, I guess I was I started homebrewing in the late 80s. So it was a very different world back then. If you wanted great beer, you kind of had to make it yourself.
Right.
So that was when I started. I read an article in the paper. It talked about Joan Easley at Easley's Winery, and she had ingredients. And Paul Edwards, a good friend of mine who started the local homebrewing club, Foam Blowers of Indiana, he was featured in it. And I read this article on a Sunday and said, that's for me. And I went out on a Monday and bought all my stuff and made my first batch of beer. And
how was it?
oh God, it was awful.
Yep.
Oh, it was awful.
They all start out that way, don't they?
It was skunked. It was medicinal phenolic. We knew nothing about what we were doing back then. It was really crazy. Oh, I think it was some sort of red ale or something. I did. I tried to drink it, and I took it. I was pretty proud of it. It's easy to be proud of something you made, and you try to talk yourself into it.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And I took it to my first homebrew club meeting when the club was just forming, and I was informed it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So it's funny, over the years I became pretty active in the club, and people would come to a meeting, and many times they would have the same reaction. They'd bring a beer, and maybe it wasn't so great.
Yeah.
So, we'd try to educate them and tell them what was wrong with it, and there's a certain segment of people that just is offended by that, and you never see them again. So they're gone, and then from then on, Ron Smith and that Foam Blowers, they're just a bunch of assholes.
So Foam Blowers is the club you are
Foam
part
Blowers
of,
of
right?
Indiana, the FBI.
Yep.
But then there's this other whole sector like me that when I was told I was making bad beer, it was like, oh shit, that's a challenge.
Right.
All right, we're going to do something about that. We're going to make better beer next time. So
And that's kind of what we do in our home brewing. We take it to, like Dan Gore. He's one that always tastes our beers.
Oh, yeah.
Anita over at Great Fermentations
Yep.
tastes our beers. We have several people that want to taste them. We take them out to these people that taste them, and they're honest with us. Guys,
Has Anita
well,
said what she liked
it's
any
good
of them?
to be honest.
I haven't talked to her about them
Okay.
yet. I haven't
Yeah,
been
yeah.
back down there, but Dan's very honest. You know, he told us that our IPA. He told me I should dump that down the toilet, and it sucked, and never try that again.
Yes, Dan's brutally honest. Thank you, Dan.
What was wrong with
Love
it?
you,
What could
buddy.
be wrong with
It
it?
just wasn't great. But our stout and our saison, he said, you know, you're getting there. You're working towards something good here. I like it. I can drink it, and that's saying a lot. So at least they're honest with us.
Honestly, it's hard to make bad beer these days. It's the
Oh, no, I disagree.
the ingredients are so good.
Yeah.
The instructions there, the equipment's there, the
Yeah.
knowledge is there. I mean,
We have it made now.
It's hard to make bad beer now.
We got it made now compared to when you started out
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's so many people around to help you out. Like I said, we can't. Every corner we turn, we got somebody helping us out. I mean, and
Plus
even
plus there's
we
an
still
internet.
agree, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
there's all kinds of people to get information from,
Yep.
and there's libraries of books, and
Yep.
the ingredients are fresh and wonderful, and completely different world than it was 25 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And everything you watch on YouTube is accurate.
Maybe not.
So what kind of system are you brewing with right now at home?
Oh man, I'm still old school. I am super old school. A couple of kegs converted into kettles.
Yeah?
Back before it was against the law to do that.
That was against the law.
Yeah, it's against the law now to
Is it
take
really?
to take those stainless kettles. It's like a felony or something.
Wow.
But people that did it before it was against the law are kind of grandfathered in. At least so I've been told.
Why is that against the law?
Well, people started stealing the like Budweiser kegs and stuff because it's all stainless steel.
Right.
You pay $10, $15 for a deposit, and you got $300 worth of stainless.
Scrap metal.
We know a brewer using one. Only it's not for brewing. He's using the Budweiser keg as a toilet.
As his urinal.
Couldn't be more proud
I went
of
to
that
the
man.
bathroom so many times, even though I didn't have to pee. I just wanted to go in there. It was awesome.
Drink more that night just so you could pee more.
We did. But it's a
Yeah.
pleasure to have you on again
Well,
tonight.
thanks.
Tonight
Thanks.
is the big, it's the season. Like I said, all that sort of right side of that menu is getting very dark because it's porter and stout season. It's all of us are big porter and stout drinkers. That's
yeah.
one of my favorites. My first growing up was Guinness, and so that's what kind of grew me into that, getting away from we had either PBR or Guinness at the house. So that was my first
The pub draft Guinness or
Extra stout.
or the
The extra
st-
stout.
Oh,
They
okay.
always said the
So
extra stout.
The
I don't-
yellow label extra stout.
Yeah.
That's
Now I'm not a big
different
fan of
beer.
the foreign extra stout, but
Uh-huh.
I still love the extra stout. It's still one of my favorite beers. Love it, and that's what kind of get me into that. And of course, Northern Michigan Bell's was huge, so
Yeah.
I got into the Bell's porter. And
Oh,
stuff
they
like
love
that, so-
stouts.
Yeah,
They love stouts.
yeah, yep. It's cold up there. You gotta have some.
You gotta have a little
some
body to
warmth
your
in there.
beer, yeah. So we do ask this of most our guests. What was your kind of aha beer into the craft scene?
Oh man, that's a great question. Maybe one of the first beers that I was drinking a lot of, going back to college, was Newcastle.
Yeah,
Newcastle Brown.
the candy of beers.
Yeah, I still love Newcastle. Yeah,
I like them too.
you know, it's got that little butterscotch diacetyl character that,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
that some people hate, and could be considered an off flavor in some beers, but
And that one it works, yeah. Absolutely.
well, I don't mind diacetyl. I'm one of those people that doesn't mind diacetyl. I like the Czech beers because of that, and Newcastle works for me, and it still does. Newcastle and some hot wings, can't beat that combination.
You really can't. You really
can't beat it.
Especially when you find it on a special somewhere and you're thinking, oh my, here we go. Yeah.
And on draft, so it's not skunked.
Oh, yeah.
you
Yep.
know?
Newcastle's it holds a place in my heart.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Growing up, Dad was always a Miller Lite man, but occasionally when some of his buddies would get together, they'd try to convert him into that Newcastle era and say, it's the candy of beers. So every time someone says Newcastle, I have to say it's the candy,
Candy
of beers.
of beers. I've never heard that.
I
but
have
I
no
can see
idea
it.
why, but
I can
that's,
see it.
yep.
Well, it's kind of sweet.
It's got that butterscotchy, yeah, and
sweet. It's
I
got that
get
little
it,
buttery
but-
note.
Oh yeah,
so.
yeah. It was definitely that's the flavor that's off-putting for me.
Yeah?
I was never a big
Is it?
the brown fan, and it's that candied taste I had never been a big fan of.
Yeah. I like some browns. Others are way more sour than what I like the browns to be. What was that one we just had? It was up north. We were up north, and Pat ended up loving it.
Most beers should not be sour.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that statement. But this was a sour brown ale. And I've had a
gosh.
few here recently. And
Yeah.
what was that one? Pat loved it.
I can't remember now. Was that wasn't that Clam Lake, was it? Or
No, we
I can't
were
remember.
we were in South Bend at Fiddler's
okay.
Hearth. Anyway,
All right, yeah.
regardless.
Pat's not here. We'd have to ask him. I forget which one it was.
He fell in love with it. And I just can't do it.
Yeah, so if it's specifically a sour beer,
Yeah.
then that's different. It's probably an old Bruin. Bruin means brown,
Yeah.
so it's probably an old Bruin, which is a Belgian-style sour beer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And you love
Lot-
sours, Brendan. You love sours, man.
I like some sours. Yeah, I mean, if a beer's good, a beer's good.
Yeah.
There's some sours I really enjoy. It's not one of my styles I'll go after, but if I have a good one, you know.
They're honestly they're kind of one of the last acquired tastes
Oh yeah.
in beer.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere way after bitterness and those kind of flavors.
Way after bitterness. Yes.
Somewhere along the line, you find tartness and sour, and then it starts to kind of grow on you.
Right.
Now, the new sour beers, they're easier actually to grow on you because they're just a little bit of lactic sourness.
Yeah.
You know, so just a little bit of lactic sourness is just sort of refreshing. But prior to this new era of sour beers were much more complex.
Yeah.
They were more Brettanomyces focused beers, so you had, lacto and pedio and various microbiota working to make the beers kind of funky as well as sour. So that was when it was a much more acquired taste. Now, now some of these real simple lactic sour beers, they're actually pretty easy to drink. You know, these little sour fruit beers.
It's
can't
one that
do it.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Don't like it.
No.
I just can't do it. I tried the Tin Man apricot. I
Now-
couldn't do it.
well,
I think the key to those little lactic sour beers is understanding, kind of shifting your brain and looking at them in a different way, and not thinking of it as beer and thinking of it more as something like lemonade.
I agree with that.
Something
I know the
that's
first
tart,
few I had was like,
you know?
man, I don't know, this is very
So
weird.
it's
But
like
it's
a-
different. It is.
It's like a mindset, pretty
Yeah.
much.
It's a
Yeah.
mindset. If you stop thinking of it as beer and think of it more as a refreshing lemonade-like drink,
So
it's
thinking like
it's a mind shift.
Thinking
and
like a
then-
cheeseburger's a steak.
Well, you ever
in a
get that
sense,
glass of something, you think there's something in it,
You know what I mean?
someone hands you a glass, you think it's something else. You take
Yeah.
that first drink, like, whoa!
yeah, you're
kinda-
expecting Coke and you got Dr.
Milk,
Pepper.
you know, yeah.
Right.
It's like, what the hell
Yeah.
is that? So, yeah, it's kind of like that.
Exactly.
But, of course, tonight we're celebrating stouts and porters. It is the season. And I know, Ron, you extensively studied, and I mean, you've studied them all, but
All styles. Yeah.
tell us a little
Pretty
bit
much.
about the birth. Where did stouts and porters, where do they come from? And
Well-
they've kind of lost popularity for a while there, right? And they kind of come
yeah,
back.
I guess to some degree. I mean, the darker beers are basically just old world beers.
Right.
You know, once upon a time, all the beers were darker. It wasn't until more modern times that techniques changed and we could get into lighter colored beers pretty much in 1800s, I guess. Prior to that, everything from smoked malts and techniques, ingredients, molasses, and things like that, everything was kind of darker. So the stouts and porters are pretty much English and Irish derivatives. You know, the stouts may be more from Ireland, the porters may be more from England.
Mm-hmm.
But they're very, very similar beers. Today, what really differentiates them is with a porter, you're looking for more chocolatey notes.
Mm-hmm.
There's three dark malts, dark grains. Let me rephrase that. Three dark grains that we use for making the darker beers. Chocolate malt, which has a flavor of like baker's chocolate.
Yeah.
Or
that,
cocoa.
That bitterness.
Yeah, kind of a baker's chocolate bitter cocoa kind of flavor, and then you've got a black malt, which is going to be more of a burnt charcoaly kind of taste, And then you've got roasted barley. And roasted barley is not a malt. That's very important.
Yeah.
Roasted barley is not a malt. It's just roasted barley. And roasted barley, prepared very much like you would a coffee bean, has the character of coffee.
Okay.
So you got cocoa, burnt taste, and coffee flavors. With the stouts, you're going to lean much more towards the roasted barley and the coffee flavors. And with the porters, you're going to lean much more towards the chocolate malt and cocoa flavors.
So
that's kind of the big difference between porters and stouts, because a lot of them get really, really close to each other.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe you're not having as hard time, but I know we talk about this on the show every once in a while nowadays, but it's getting harder and harder to distinguish stouts from porters because it seems like they're trying to cross them over way too much nowadays.
Well, I think that gets into a discussion of beer styles, and beer styles aren't always important. They're important when we are trying to communicate about beer, and they're important when we're trying to judge beers in competitions and things. But outside of that,
it really doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter. I mean,
do you like it?
You're just oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So you just you're making beers, and tweeners are literally all over the place. So as people do get more away from classic styles, you definitely see a lot more of these tweeners that aren't quite porters, aren't quite stouts, not sure exactly what they are. And that's fine as long as they taste good and you don't put it in a competition.
Oh,
yeah, I would think people probably who maybe grew up on their first taste were more the milk stouts or English stouts were probably, that's their kind of their definition, maybe creamier, and thinking, I'm always trying to justify it by, I guess, an Irish stout to me seems more like a traditional stout. But really, stouts, it just meant strong, correct? I mean, that's porters and stouts are all the same damn thing at one point.
I mean, at one time it was all porters,
right.
And then it was stout porters,
right,
and then stouts. So they're all kind of mixed in there, there together. But then each little area, started making their own style. The Irish, I guess, making more of a burnt coffee like stout, as opposed to England focusing a little more on the chocolate malt, which was an English malt, and having more of that cocoa baker's chocolate kind of flavor. And so then up in Ireland, you got the pub draft Guinness, which is what most people drink. That's what's usually on tap everywhere, and people don't realize that that's actually a light beer. Literally a light beer. It's light in calories. It's super light. It's thin. It's watery.
They want them to drink more.
Yeah, I mean, literally the calorie count on it is something not much more than a Miller Lite. It's extremely light beer. The body's described as watery. It's just black in color.
Right.
But don't be fooled. It's a tiny, tiny little beer. The nitrogen that it's served on makes it feel. Gives it a perception of being a little heavier, but it's a tiny little beer. Easy drinking, sessionable.
Oh yeah,
beer.
So I stepped away for a minute to get us our first beer sample. I'm guessing you asked him the ultimate question of the difference in the styles and how it's kind of hard to tell the difference anymore in some of the different beers. That's I came back to the tail end of it, but that's kind of what I'm guessing you asked.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And who cares if it tastes good?
Yeah, ultimately that was the answer. To review, a little more of a chocolate focus is going to push it into the porter camp.
Oh, okay.
Chocolate malt, which is a cocoa baker's chocolate flavor, and a little more roastiness, burnt flavors, and coffee notes which is roasted barley and black malt. That's going to push it more into a stout category.
Gotcha. Yeah, in general. I'm with you guys though. I mean, if I taste the beer and it tastes good and they classify it wrong, I don't care. But I know in competition that's a huge deal. But just as an average drinker out there drinking beer, if it tastes good, it tastes good.
Yeah, there are sometimes some issues because the public is becoming a little more educated about beer styles, which, as I said, is really good for communicating about beer. But you don't necessarily have to get hung up on it. But once people start communicating about beer and they do start kind of understanding a style a little bit, there is an expectation. So if you order something with a certain expectation and the beer is completely different than that, a lot of times people won't shift their brain and say, well, it's not what I was expecting, but it's still a good beer. they just stick with it's just not a good beer. It's not what I was expecting.
Well,
so we do have to kind of balance that these days because people are becoming a little more educated about beer styles and
aren't
and
the
talking
styles
about
themselves changing a little bit though? Especially like in an IPA category, for example. Before I got into this, if I drank an IPA, it was always just so hopped I couldn't even drink it. Now I feel like I've started to like hops a little more. I've liked IPAs a little bit more, but I'm starting to find a lot that are really more balanced than IPAs used to be. It's not just the killer hops.
Sounds like you changed.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite possible too. But I'm finding a lot more well-balanced IPAs out there that just, the hops
right.
are a lot.
You're
the
right.
malt and the hops kind of match up better than before, where it was just killer hops in your face.
Well, these whole new categories of like session IPAs.
Oh yeah, walkabouts.
At some point, IPA has just become a marketing term.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is a session IPA? A session IPA is a pale ale. We had those before.
Right.
We still have those. So what? It's a pale ale with a little more hop flavor.
But the IPAs are so big right now that it's easier to say.
So you slap IPA.
You slap an IPA on the name of it.
Everything.
Yeah.
Generalized category.
So it's a hoppy brown. What's a brown IPA? So we've kind of slapped IPA on everything to the point where it doesn't mean anything anymore. So now we have every color of the rainbow IPA, which remember what the P stands for in IPA? Pale.
Yeah,
Having a black pale,
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
that's kind of silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we have it regardless. So we have every color of the rainbow, and we have Belgian varieties and American varieties, and then we have 3 different strengths. So you got session strength, regular strength, and double strength. So you name it, there's an IPA for it.
So and then you go up from there. You go up to quad, don't you? Or triple quads.
Yeah, there's things out there. I don't know.
That's in Belgium, right?
Once you get past
know.
no, there's actually triple IPAs. And
I
such.
thought so.
I think Dogfish did one.
Yeah.
They did that 120 minute. I don't know what it was considered, but it was.
But that wasn't a quad IPA. That's just a 120.
It gets a little crazy because the double IPA the IBUs go up to 100, and 100 is the max of what our palate can actually taste. It may say on the label that it goes higher than that, but science says our palates max out at 100.
So what's it really matter?
So they're wasting ingredients.
Well, what I tell people is if it says it has 200 IBUs on there, what that's really telling us is that the IBUs are going to max out at 100. So what our mouthfeel is going to max out at 100. Those extra 100 IBUs are probably going to show up in the form of flavor and aroma, hops. So it's going to be a really, really hoppy.
Oh yeah.
What's the best way to make it through a long work week? Take a midweek break and join the fun every Wednesday night at Allie's Alehouse in Fishers for Nico's Open Stage. Want to share your talent in front of a live audience? Whether it's breaking in some new material or jamming out to some favorites, Nico's Open Stage is the place to go for it. There's never a cover charge, and walk-ins are always welcome. Each week brings a featured artist and drink specials from Jack Daniels. Check out Nico's Open Stage on Facebook for more details. And come join the fun every Wednesday night at Allie's Alehouse, home of the boys of Blind Pig Confessions.
I'm Busey. This is Chili from Dos Ringos. You're listening to Blind Pig Confession.
Woo! How much do you think the American boom of the craft beer business is pushing the beer scene outside of America? Because you're seeing stuff like Guinness Black IPAs and stuff like that. It was never, starting to see all this stuff now. And is a big,
It is huge. Years ago, we were the barren wasteland of beer here in the U.S. and the craft beer movement started. And suddenly, we started getting people's attention. And next thing you know, here we are today with the rest of the world looking at us now as the beer mecca, the beer capital of the world, because we've got so much going on. There's so much innovation happening. There's so many great breweries doing great things. You've got German classic old, old school, stuck in the mud breweries like Weihenstephan and Schneider Weiss wanting to do collaboration beers with American brewers.
Yeah, it's
Isn't that
crazy.
Yeah.
And you got, Belgian brewers doing the same thing, Japanese brewers. So yeah, what's happening here in America has spread like wildfire all over the world now.
Right.
And I do my I lead beer trips to Germany and Belgium, Czech Republic, and so I'm over into those places all the time. And there's just these craft breweries over there making American beer styles. And
how is it over there?
It's some of the craziest stuff.
Yeah.
Well, like the Czech beers, the Czechs love diacetyl.
Oh, really?
They love diacetyl. They actually like the flavor of diacetyl. That's why Pilsner Urquell, classic Czech Pilsner, has some of that buttery character in there.
Yeah.
Well, almost all of their beers do. So the craft breweries, it's not something they try to get rid of. They like the taste. So you get these IPAs, double IPAs. But they're real malty and
weird
caramely,
butteriness,
and got these buttery notes, and the hops are like way toned down because they're trying to use American hops, which they're getting like 2 years later.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can appreciate the effort, but it's like a really bad homebrewed IPA. And that's not everybody, but
no, but that's it's really neat.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's hard for them to duplicate, what we're doing here in the craft scene.
Yeah.
Just culturally and ingredient-wise.
I would think it would be much tougher to do that outside of America, just because they've had that beer. German beer has been, nobody's messed with it for hundreds of years. We're a young country, and this is all new to us. We're making all this stuff from scratch. We didn't have Guinness here. We didn't have that stuff. And Budweiser came in from Germany. So we're new to all this stuff. But over there, these things have been planted there for hundreds of years, and now they're having to compete with us. I would think some people would be putting their nose up to it and saying, we still make the best beer. We're going to worry about. We're going to worry about you.
They are. There's a certain segment that does, but
eventually they're going to have to come around and.
Yeah, the youth is driving it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Stone opened a new mega brewery in Berlin.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. They just opened them maybe 6 months ago. Big destination, Stone facility like they have out in California in Berlin. Now, and that's because northern Germany is a little more open to it. Northern Germany is a little more kind of industrialized when it comes to the beer.
Right.
Southern Germany, you get down into Bavaria, and they're a little more stuck in their ways and love their beer. But it's heading that way too. There's little craft breweries in Munich.
But you got to also look at he sold out, right? The original Brewer Stones.
No.
Is he still into
Cook?
it?
Yeah.
I thought he did he step back a little bit, or what happened there?
No,
because
he's still pretty active.
Didn't they just
maybe thinking of someone else?
I think you're thinking of a different brewery. You're thinking of Three Floyds. Something happened with Three Floyds recently where they got rid of their head brewer.
Maybe that's what
that was very recent. But the owners are still there. They're just bringing in a hot shop brewer.
Okay. I don't something I'm mixing.
I thought Stone was actually getting more involved with the craft beer scene, of getting more to fend off the big brewers buying you up, trying to come across with something like a craft team where entrepreneurship, where you could still stay small, be a part of a group though. I read an article a while. I don't know if it was too long ago. I know it was at least one of the Stone guys was involved in this, and I forget what it's called now, World Craft or something. I forget what it was,
that sounds right.
I like the idea.
Yeah, trying to keep it small but big.
Yeah.
But to keep so you could keep your little craft brewery, but yet compete with the big guys as far as distribution and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Distribution, the cost of raw ingredients, that's the big reason why these breweries are getting bought up.
You're acting as a co-op at that point. Mm-hmm. So grain and everything else start going to be cheaper for you.
Yeah.
If you're buying in bigger quantities, obviously it's going to be cheaper and you can compete better.
Yeah. When some of these breweries start getting really big, it's like, where do you go from there, it's like you need more distribution. You need more distribution channels.
Yeah.
You got to eke out every little penny you can on profit margin, which means you got to lower your cost of ingredients and bring some things together. So in order to keep growing, assuming that's what they wish to do, at some point being bought up makes sense.
And
to
whatever.
them. I hate that they do that. I hate that it's Budweiser buying them because I don't. Budweiser's a good company overall, I guess, but their marketing tactics on beer really suck.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
The way that their guerilla tactics, the under the table shit, that they're pushing people out of the marketplace and taking up shelf space. I mean, they have some really pay to play type.
Oh, hardcore.
corrupt
Yes,
crap.
Absolutely.
And there's no need for it. There's enough for everybody, and it kind of. But I guess when you see their profit margin getting cut into, but for a while there they said there was nothing to worry about, but obviously there was because they're, what they're doing proves that the craft beer business is getting so big, but their tactics are horrible. And that's what we talked about that numerous times. You can't dispute what they've done. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about what we're talking about if it wasn't for Budweiser doing what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a lot to innovate, but give them credit where credit's due. But
you have to. I mean, they paved a lot of way for a lot of craft beer.
Now they need to get out of the way.
Just please.
But instead they're getting bigger.
Yeah.
And how that monopoly is being able to be formed here in the United States, I have no idea. But
They're still working on that.
Yeah.
That's really complicated.
The Miller Coors merger in.
The Miller AB.
That would give them. I mean, they would all be one big, huge umbrella, and I could see them just being able to squash anybody. And I know that's what you're trying to avoid, but I mean, they'd be a mega giant. I mean, there's no doubt about it. AB InBev is already enormous.
Yeah.
Miller Coors is big in its own right, but at least with them right now, they're not doing I don't see them on the commercials doing the scare tactics and doing the. Coming in and trying to push little guys out. They're just kind of doing their own thing.
Miller's tactics have been better, but now they're being part. They're becoming part of ABI.
At that point, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, you're being bought out.
So what'd you bring us to start with, Jordan?
This is going to be the Common Necessity.
That's what I thought.
By Quaff. It is a hazelnut stout. Or no, I'm sorry, it's not a stout. It's a hazelnut. What is it? Is this a porter?
Is it a hazelnut porter?
I believe it's a porter.
It's a hazelnut porter, yeah.
The aroma on this alone
it's on the
is
sheet.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't.
And it's very sweet, yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah. Hazelnut. Yep.
And actually,
hazelnut stout.
it is stout?
I wasn't smelling a whole lot of the hazelnut earlier. Now I am.
They got an English porter around, but this is their hazelnut stout.
Okay. Well, the confusion, I think, comes in when...
the hazelnut knocks me off. I'm not a big hazelnut fan, so that flavor in here just knocks me out.
I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think
like coffee though too.
It smells amazing.
Oh, it does. It's got a hazelnutty coffee flavor to it, and you're absolutely right.
It's like hazelnut coffee. Is what
that's what it tastes like. But
I like it actually. I drink this quite often.
Oh yeah, and I think it's one of Quaffon's better. So
and hazelnut's popular.
Ooh, hazelnut.
I like it.
The aroma's really nice.
Yeah.
The aroma's really nice, but it's perhaps a little strong for some people.
Yeah.
On the hazelnut side. But
if you don't like hazelnut and coffee, you might be turned away by this beer just because it is really strong. It's in your face when you take a sip.
Yeah.
It's not subtle whatsoever.
Oh, it tastes like a cold cup of coffee with the hazelnut creamer in it.
See,
I mean, it's all the flavors are there, that's for sure.
This reminds me of Christmas. Sitting down with a cup of coffee and a couple of hazelnut cookies. It reminds me of Christmas. I'm not.
Here comes
Santa
Santa Claus.
Got your footies on and
absolutely.
The one-piece bunny suit.
Yep.
Gotta get a Red Ryder BB gun.
Be careful. I may have that out in the car.
Oh well, you know what? We got a Christmas show coming up. We could all put get a. I was
going to bring that up later, but I think that's going to happen.
Put your eye out. Show up in our Christmas onesies for the show.
Yeah.
We would do something like that. It wouldn't bother me.
You're not too concerned with the tweeners, and if there's good beer, it's good beer.
Absolutely.
And you, obviously, you teach a class, or you teach a number of courses, correct?
Yeah.
You have one going on right now, correct?
I've got several things going on. For years, I have taught my beer MBA classes. BeerMBA.com. MBA stands for Master of Beer Appreciation. So they're my Master of Beer Appreciation classes. They're open to the public. It's a 3-part class. I cover about 60 classic beer styles, do some palate training stuff with off flavors, talk about ingredients and processes and the history and culture of all these styles, and then we taste them, and it's just it's a lot of fun. It's very educational. People really into it, come back and take it over and over again.
I would think, yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds delicious.
Yeah, so it's fun for people that just want to know a little bit more about beer. For those wanting to become certified either in cicerone or BJCP, it's a first step because they cover all the styles and the off flavors. And then each fall, like what I got going on right now, is the BJCP study group. So once a year, I'll take the people that want to do that and kind of get them prepared to take the exam, which is a lot of hard work, a lot of study, a lot of judging practice.
What's your success rate there?
I do pretty good. I'm not sure exactly what my percentage is, but it's probably up around 90.
Nice.
People have to be ready. I mean, that's not just me.
It's a class
people have
that
to
you
be ready
have to
for
want
it.
to take. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they've done that, if they've prepared themselves and they're ready for it, and I try to weed them out before they get into it, because that can just be frustrating for them. Then once they get to me, we try to get them through the test. So
yeah.
So we do that once a year, and then the cicerone stuff, I do that occasionally for breweries and distributors.
Like you train the workers, or
yeah, sales folks. A lot of times, sales people, and in a brewery it could be anybody.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so are you working with Flicks quite a bit there?
No, I just I know Chris real well.
Yeah, I know you brought him up earlier, but I know
just because you look like him.
Oh,
yeah.
I know they train their workers actually pretty hardcore and extensively as.
Yeah,
beer styles.
They're a corporate
Yeah.
office, so they certainly believe in that and making sure that their waiters and waitresses understand beer styles. But no, I haven't worked with them. I've worked with some others, but Chris, Chris Knott, a great brewer here in town, works at Flicks. He went through my BJCP study group years ago, so we got to know each other then.
Good, awesome.
So then what else? I was talking about, IUPY, I do kind of the same thing, but it's a 16-week full semester, 3 credit hour class. So I'm able to get a little more involved in cultures and beer history and colonial brewing in America and really get a lot deeper into it. So that's a fun class. And then starting in January, very excited about this. I've been working on this for about 2 years now. Starting in January will be a professional craft brewery operations type short course.
Oh, wow.
I've been seeing a lot of this,
Yeah, 7-day short course, basically to create a well-rounded entry-level employee
and you're
for the craft beer industry.
That's cool.
You're kind of It's not just a week-long course. I mean, it's spread out.
Yeah,
right?
the days are spread out.
Yeah.
We talked about that. UC Davis, a couple of the big brewing schools in the country. UC Davis out in California, Siebel up in Chicago. Everybody does it different ways. We could have done 7 days straight, but then people trying to take it are probably working somewhere, and they'd have to take a whole week off. Plus, I think it's better to have some time to digest
full
day of learning, rather than come back the next day and your head's gonna just be filled with mush.
And actually, I was looking into it. It's relatively inexpensive from what I've seen.
It's crazy inexpensive.
Especially if you want to do all the classes. And the cool thing I thought about it was that you've actually got it broken up. You could actually pay to play as far as you want to take individual classes, correct?
You can pay by the individual class. If you wish, there's a little bit of a discount, but it's only like $1,600 to do all 7 classes.
All 7, yeah.
I think Pat said something about that.
Yeah.
He was talking about it a lot.
Siebel, which Siebel's a great school. I'm not going to say we're compared to Siebel, but they have a comparable program that's going to cost you, by the time you stay in Chicago and everything else, it's going to cost you $6,000 or $7,000.
Oh yeah, easy.
For a comparable program that you can do for $1,600. To be honest, I was working with the school at IUPUI of it's like the School of Professional Development, so it's outside the normal academics, and they do things like this for project management and various philanthropy. They have a great philanthropy program. People come in from around the country for it. And they came back and said, yeah, so for a 7-day course, this is what we would normally charge. Like, whoa, that's not near enough, is it? Well, it's what we charge. So it's like, okay, that's
all right, perfect.
That sounds great.
So now, how long have you been teaching these classes at IUPUI?
Well, the regular class that I teach, I've been doing that, I guess, 7 years now or so.
And you were actually part of because they actually had a bar on campus, right? At one point at IUPUI.
They have a bar on campus.
Is it still there?
Chancellor's over where it used to be University Hotel.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's still there.
Is it really? I thought
but I have nothing to do with that. We
I
got a special
exemption
to do the.
I thought some of the beer actually went on to tap there.
No.
Did that never happen?
No, that never happened.
I thought I read that somewhere.
That was a thought, but we don't actually make any beer other than.
Okay.
It's more of an appreciation or a cicerone type class rather than a brewing class. The new one is focused, a lot more on brewing.
Nice. Okay.
But the current class is more on styles and history and culture and off flavors and food and beer pairing and that type of thing.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So someday, it would be great to expand the program, do what UC Davis or Siebel has, which is actually a small brewery that you get to work with and put beers on tap there at the school. Mm-hmm. That'd be pretty cool. But
that'd be awesome.
When's that going to happen?
let me get this one started.
We'll have to start taking classes. No, and actually, we've all talked about it a couple times now. I mean, this is something I think we all are pretty interested in. Mm-hmm. We need to actually get our butts motivated and actually do it.
My beer and BA classes, people take those and they're just absolutely thrilled with them. And it seems like the higher level of understanding that they already are at coming into it, the more they get out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
And that makes sense.
I cover a lot of material. That's why some people take it and they're like, man, that was so much fun and I learned so much, but I got to come back because I missed half of it. So
perfect. And that's what we talked about earlier was, when we started this show, we were on a previous show. We started this when we wanted to get much more into the craft scene. The three of us decided we wanted to learn. We wanted to actually become part of this community that we have here in Indy because it's so big. And then people started asking, why don't you brew? Why don't you do this? And we said, okay. So we got into brewing not just so we could brew our own beer, but also because we wanted to start learning terminology. We wanted to learn different flavors. We wanted to learn.
No better way than to actually do it.
And we wanted to experience, off flavors and stuff like that. Unfortunately, recently we experienced a really bad run of off flavors, and we had to temporarily shut down brewing operations until we find out where the infection is. But
we have an old joke about that. We used to say, next week we're going to do this off flavor seminar, and that's the good news. The bad news is, Jordan, we're using your beers.
Right, exactly. But we knew it. I mean, we actually had one batch was so bad we had to dump it. But it taught us a lot. It taught us we were doing something wrong, and that's how you learn the best. Is you do something wrong, you learn from it, and you move forward. So,
what did it taste like? Chloroseptic?
No, it was soured.
Sour. Oh, okay.
It was very sour, and it had big white chunks floating in it.
Ah.
Yeesh.
So I was guessing it was like Brettanomycin or something like that.
Sour, mold, wild yeast,
something got in there. So,
yep,
it happens.
Yeah, sometimes you get lucky with those.
Yeah, we did.
And Dan's actually here tonight, and we were at Redemption. He kind of told us that story about how he got very lucky one time.
Yeah, it happens.
We had to psych ourselves up to try it, and we did, and we did not get lucky.
It was pretty bad. But that's kind of what this show's always been about. Is we've started to learn and grow over the past year, and learning terminology and being able to talk beer on a more intelligent level. And then as we've grown, we kind of try to pass that on to our listeners too. And I think we have a lot of novices that listen to our show because they feel like they can relate to us because we're learning as we go as well. Yep. So they're kind of learning right along with us.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's kind of a cool concept. And then now they're going to hear that they can take a course with you and learn maybe even beyond what we know now, and that's awesome.
Send them my way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's that's what we love to do.
I tell you what, it's none of all this beer stuff I do, all these classes, my trips and judging and all that fun stuff. It's all my sideline. It's not my day job. It's my passion, though.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was actually going to ask you.
It's not something I make a tremendous amount of money doing, but I love doing it. And so
what
I love my day job too.
What is the day job?
My day job, I own a marketing firm.
Oh.
Business to business, industrial marketing.
Well, we'll have to talk later.
MarketWise Solutions is
Very
my
nice.
company. Been in business since '99.
Yeah, and we all have day jobs too. All of us we all have day jobs. So this again for us is also just a passion.
Yeah.
We're definitely not
That's what
rolling
makes
in
it
the dough
fun.
doing this,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
What makes it fun.
Yeah, we do this for the passion of the craft, and that's why we're here. We try to be the ambassadors for the breweries and just get their name out there as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Releasing shows all over social media, out in person, doing whatever we can. That's because we love the craft beer so much. So that's why we're here.
A lot of
Such a
great
fun
craft beers
industry.
in town.
There is.
As usual.
And so many great people.
Absolutely,
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you find great craft beer, you find great people.
Yeah.
Usually also great culture and great food to go along with it.
And we've actually talked about this on the show quite a bit, and this is one of the things we love about Indiana and the craft beer scene is everybody's willing to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard so many horror stories of other states, people, they're being real secretive and they don't want to talk to other people and all this. Indiana, it's not that way. It seems like everybody is willing to work with other people, and we love it. I mean, and we love to get on everybody, and I've never got on the show and had somebody say, well, off air, this is not. No, it doesn't work like that. And Indiana is just a fantastic place.
It's changed a little bit over the years as more and more people have gotten into it, and sometimes you don't know them. For years and years, you kind of knew everybody that was coming along and starting a brewery. So they were already friends. But so now you kind of have to make friends sometimes to extend that hospitality to them. But it still gets done. And I'll tell you, one of the things, part of it, I guess, is just good old Hoosier hospitality. Yeah. But I think it also stems back to some early roots, and some of those early roots was when the Broad Ripple Brew Pub and Oak and Barrel and the handful of those starter breweries were getting going, and we had a guy by the name of Brooke Belli. I don't know if his name's ever come up before. Brooke was the original brewer down at Oak and Barrel.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, and he's a great brewer.
I was going to say, you should remember.
He's very technical, and just as new breweries were popping up everywhere, the guy was just out there trying to help everybody.
And it seems like a lot of brewers around town have gotten their start at Oak and Barrel.
Oh yeah,
or,
it's been the feeder system.
It really has, and it's
pull
fantastic.
People up and
gotta love Oak and Barrel.
Everybody's like, I was here in Oak and Barrel. I was here in Oak and Barrel. I was here in Oak and Barrel.
But there's a reason for that,
and that's kind of like me, just being old. Oak and Barrel's old. Oak and Barrel's old.
But they've been around for a long time for a good reason.
They have.
Yeah.
We were at doing a show at Danny Boy's. If you guys remember that, they had an issue. There happened to be guys there drinking, like other brewers from another brewery that were just there drinking beer, and they had an issue that night. And these guys jumped up and
they all
helped
hopped up and helped them out.
It was just so
awesome.
cool, I was like,
that is awesome.
And I've been to places where they tell me not to go into other breweries, and you don't want to go there. The place sucks. Not in Indiana.
Yeah,
but I've been places.
One place in Indiana does that, but most of them don't.
Are not like that. So it's very cool. It was very cool. We were very young, and seeing that was really cool. And the next thing you know, I was like, man, we see that everywhere. It is a cool scene here, and glad to be a part of it.
And like I said, we love it. I mean, tonight alone, we're staying and doing another show, so I can say this, but we have the brewer from Redemption is here. We've got Holly from New Holland's here. Jeremy from Evil Czech is here. We've got a lot of breweries represented here tonight. And it's great. We love it. We love that interaction and that camaraderie that goes on between brewers.
And for some reason, they keep asking to come back on. I don't know why.
and Jerry from Beer Brewery he hits me up about every other week to get on the show. Like, God love Jerry.
God love that man. We do love that man. So, but speaking of Indiana breweries, is there any up and coming breweries that you know of, or any kind of not well known yet Indiana brewers that you think should have their name out more than what they already are?
Gosh, I don't know. Good question. There's so many of them popping up.
They are,
you know.
and that's where it gets kind of hard right now.
Getting hard to keep track of all of them.
Yeah, Indiana's getting hard because it seems like every month there's at least one popping up on a corner somewhere that But
I mean, Jerry Sutherland's place, Round Town.
I'm hearing great things so far.
Yeah, and Jerry's a veteran brewer. Spent many years at Rock Bottom downtown, and some other places, and just making some really solid beers at his new place.
Yeah,
so
we were
very excited for him.
Yeah, we'll be there soon.
We were at Chili Water. Brendan and I did a show at Chili Water a few weeks back.
Yep. They had
they were doing the one
tap
night
takeover.
Yeah, doing the one night stand event.
Yeah.
So we talked to them a little bit about that. So we're going to try to get in there as well.
Yep.
Chili Water, another brewery that had really good beer that was really solid.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, what about as usual? We always get off target in the show because there's so much good things going on. This was a Stout and Porter show. We barely talked about them.
I know, isn't it crazy?
Do you have? But do you have maybe some of your favorites in town, or even your favorite styles of your own that you like? Are you more of a Stout or Porter traditional kind of guy, or?
People that know me know that I like just about every beer style.
Right.
And usually whatever's in my hand, it's my favorite
What's
style.
Your favorite beer?
So I have lots of favorite styles. I did make a handout since we didn't talk too much about it. I can mention that I have this posted on my website.
Okay.
So on the beermba.com website under the resources, there's some old presentations on there. They're not that old, but various presentations I've given. Those are all on there that people might want to check out. And then underneath those is this 2-page kind of summary sheet on the 8 different classic styles of porter and stout.
Yeah, I don't think most people realize just how many styles there are.
I mean, and that's just classic styles,
right?
Then you start getting into tweeners,
right?
Start getting into tweeners and adding fruit and coffee and bourbon and.
So we still
got
about
that and
bourbon,
got all kinds of stuff.
We still got about 6 or 7 minutes left on this episode, but do you want to talk a little bit about this real quick and let people know about it?
I don't know. I mean, in 6 or 7 minutes, I could talk about this for like 3 hours probably.
Well, you do teach classes on it, so it makes sense.
So what? So, run down it real quick. Baltic porter, sometimes brewed as a lager, big, fruity, from Russia. If you've never had one, you got to try one. They're sweet, they're delicious, kind of like dessert porters. The English porter, classic style, more of a chocolatey porter like Fuller's. The Irish stout, we talked about that. You got the classic pub draft. And then the extra stout, not the foreign extra stout, but the extra stout originally, I found this out when I was in Dublin doing the connoisseurs tasting, which was well worth it there at the brewery. The extra stout originally used to be the same exact beer, just not on nitro.
Oh, really?
Today it's different because today all of the pub draft comes out of Dublin, and the bottled version comes for the United States at least comes out of Canada. So they're different beers now. The alcohol content's a little bit different, but originally that was the only difference between those two beers. And then the foreign extra stout is quite a bit different. It's quite a bit more roasty, higher in alcohol, and more bitter, and found out again in Dublin that was originally created in a similar manner to why they created an IPA. The IPA being shipped to India needed to be a bigger, hoppier version to kind of survive the voyage, blah, 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 that whole story, which is sort of true, sort of not. We won't get into that. But the foreign extra stout, it has the same origins to that. It was created as a bigger beer to be shipped and still be good. The milk stout, the classic milk stout, crazy story about that, I'll tell you real quick. In England, they can't call them milk stouts or cream stouts anymore because there's this old myth that these beers were healthy beverages for pregnant, get this, pregnant and lactating women. Milk stouts.
Perfect.
Right. Obviously, they're not.
That was the Guinness. It's good for your health. That was the Guinness tagline.
Yeah. So today, they have to call them sweet stouts. Here, we can call them whatever we want.
Yeah.
But the key to those are lactose sugar. Lactose sugar is a sugar that's unfermentable by regular brewer's yeast, so it's really, really sweet. and drinks like a dessert beer.
And delicious.
Now,
And
founders had to
delicious.
take the baby off their beer bottles
Yeah,
from the oatmeal
yep.
stout.
Which is,
I was
I
getting
think,
to that one. So that's
where we're going next.
That's the oatmeal stout. The oatmeal stout, they can be sweet, they can be bitter. They just need oatmeal in them, and the oatmeal just gives it kind of a grainy character and a really smooth mouthfeel. And tropical stout, that used to just be a foreign extra stout, but this is a special type that comes out of the Caribbean, Jamaica, places like that, and it's it's really malty and really fruity, but not necessarily dark fruit. It tastes like a rum fruit cake.
Tropical, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
like
think
dragon stout. If
never
you ever
had one.
If you ever find
Me
a
either.
dragon stout, try one. It's like drinking rum fruit cake.
I've had dragon's milk, but never dragon.
A bourbon beer. Remind me to talk about bourbon beers for just a second.
Dill.
Then American Porter, that used to be what we called Robust Porter. We've changed the name on it in the BJCP. That's basically almost every porter made by an American brewery. The American Stout, that used to be a foreign extra stout, but it's basically a foreign extra stout with lots of American hops. Sierra Nevada Stout, classic example,
Yep.
but lots of breweries make those. And then, of course, the granddaddy of them all, the Imperial Stout, something like Dark Lord or Expedition Stout from Bell's.
Right.
Yeah.
And those are the beers that usually could use a little bit of age. They're 10, 11% alcohol, so you want that alcohol to tone down a little bit. You want those hops and the resiny character to sort of tone down a little bit. You want the malt flavors to start meshing. So get a couple years on those, let them settle down just a little bit. And it's like putting chili in the fridge for a little while.
It all congeals.
Yeah, it's much better after it meshes a little bit.
I can put a bottle of scotch on the shelf, but I have a hard time putting a bottle of beer away. It's just hard.
It is
only
very,
certain
very hard.
ones. Only certain ones.
And I
know.
think Jordan's the only one out of us that has actually accomplished this feat by actually putting a bottle away.
I still have it in the fridge.
Let me-
It's sitting there. I'm waiting for it.
do we have a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let me tell you a story. I was judging beers with a good friend, Bill Ballinger, who is co-owner, brewer at Daredevil now.
Oh, yeah.
This was some years ago. Neither of us had ever had Dark Lord. Bill tells this story, too. We were judging at the Brewers Cup. We were judging on the pro side, and we're judging Russian Imperial Stouts. This Russian Imperial Stouts comes by, and this thing was just phenomenal. Smooth, wonderful, delicious, rich. I mean, it was just one of the best beers either. It was
everything you wanted.
Everything you ever wanted, right? So we score it really high, and we're thinking, man, I wonder if that's Dark Lord. I wonder if that's the infamous Dark Lord or something. Anyway, we give it a gold medal, and we move on, and Veronica, who was the rep for Bell's, came up after the competition and said, so you want to know what that beer was? It's like, well, Veronica, since you're talking to me, I'm guessing it was Expedition Stout, which is Bell's Imperial Stout. She says, yes, it was, but it was a 13-year-old Expedition Stout from Larry Bell's personal cellar.
Oh, wow.
That's why that beer was so good.
Wow.
And that tells you what can happen with a beer like that, given some time in the right conditions down in the cellar.
Wow.
We had a very, very green Imperial Stout from FDR that just opened here with Fisher's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They gave us just a sample of one that was very green, and it was good already.
Oh, yeah.
So once they let that sucker age for a little while, and then they put it out, I think it's going to be phenomenal.
I'm actually hoping they actually do bottle it or something. I don't think they do. They will do it there, but it's got to age. I mean, that beer was fantastic.
Yeah.
And like you said, let it sit.
Yeah, 13 years might be a
little much
a little long. It worked in that case, and for a big beer like certain English barley wines and Imperial Stouts, you can certainly get by with that. Mm-hmm. But maybe just a few years at least.
Maybe we convince Brian to get one bottle and put it away, or 5 bottles, 6 bottles, one for him and one for each of us, and put it away.
We're almost out of time here, but you wanted us to remind you to talk about bourbon barrels for a minute.
No, I was just going to say, very excited. Thursday evening, I head up to Chicago to judge at FOBAB.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah, FOBAB is a festival of barrel-aged beers.
Yeah.
It's all professional craft beers from all over the country. Everything aged in a barrel. So everything from bourbon aged rye.
Do you have room
tequila.
for a fat carry-on?
Awesome. So
it'll be a quick trip, but it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
We definitely appreciate you coming on the show tonight, and I think you need to come back on more often because I think our listeners, our listeners are gonna love hearing what you have to say, and we can learn a lot from you ourselves as well, and that's a good thing for what we do, and our listeners as well. So
I certainly love talking about it.
That's good. That's great. I could sit here and listen to you all night. But
yeah, absolutely.
So. Well, once again, man, thanks for coming on the show, and we hope to have you back on here again soon.
You bet. Thank you guys. A lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Pet show.